Okay, welcome to the next part of the show now. Welcome to the UK airwaves with yours truly, Danny Sun. It's a pleasure to have you on board, Lorraine Landon. Welcome.
Hi, it's Laurene
Oh,
Landon. Welcome.
yes,
Thank you.
Lorraine. Thank you. Um,
Of course. Hello.
it's a
Thank
ple
you for having me on your show.
You're welcome. It's a pleasure to have you on board. Thank you for taking time out to talk to us today. Just wanted to touch on your illustrious filmography, your films, your movies. Um,
Oh, thank you.
So well, I just want to start it from, where it began really. When you were a child, did you always aspire to be an actress?
Actually, yes and no. Um, when I was a child, I was very, very insecure. Um, my father used to have us watch old movies with him. Yeah, like the old James Cagney
Yeah.
movies and Marlon Brando. And I always wondered what it would be like on the other side of the screen. And it seemed like a fascinating field to be in. And the more I watched films with my father, he
Yeah.
was really my inspiration. My dad, he was an opera singer, not famous, but he loved opera and the classics, classic movies, black and white movies.
Yeah.
So um, and I always used to think to myself, how can I make the most amount of money with the least amount of education?
Thank you for answering that. Of course, Mario Lanza, he was a famous opera singer. He did some films in the 50s, didn't
Oh
he?
yeah, Mario Lanza, Franco Corelli, UC Burling. My father had all those great opera tenors at our house where we were growing
Yeah.
up, and I loved opera. I didn't understand it, but I loved the music.
Yeah.
So I started playing classical piano at a very, very young age. Chopin, Tchaikovsky, Beethoven. Um, yeah, I have to say my father was my inspiration, albeit when I got into the industry. I'm sorry, that's my cat barking. No, it's my one of my pit bulls. Um, my father didn't want me to get into the movie industry at all. He was furious because he didn't want me to get hurt. But he, he he was my inspiration.
Yeah.
That's all I can say.
Fantastic. And am I right? You're from Canada originally, and then you moved to the USA,
Toronto. Yeah, I'm from
Toronto.
Toronto. Yeah.
And
Where are you from?
I'm from Birmingham in the West Midlands, England. Yeah,
From where?
Central England, Birmingham.
Oh, well, wow, that's beautiful. I was there when I did the movie Hundra. We were filming in Spain, and then we went back and had to do the looping, for at the Cinecittà Studios in Italy, and then we came back, and on the way we stopped in London, and we stayed at some very beautiful old hotel on it's a Dilly Street. What's it called?
Oh
Piccadilly?
yeah, Piccadilly. Yeah, Piccadilly.
Yeah,
Yes, yeah, that's
yeah.
correct.
But yes, I love England and I love the British people. They're so enchanting, and that accent is just, it makes me swoon.
Oh, lovely. Oh, great. I'm glad you enjoy our country. And we're talking about you growing up. Which actresses did you look up to? When you were growing up?
Oh, Betty Davis for
Ooh,
sure. And I had an opportunity to read with her actually for her last film. I was in her last film with her, and I got to read. I could not believe I was reading with the Betty Davis, and because she was my idol, I idolized her growing up, and then I actually got to be in The Wicked Stepmother with her, and she said I was a wonderful actress, and she was quite frail then. She had
yeah,
cancer and was quite ill at the time.
yeah,
That was her last film, but I, I had a, I had a really wonderful time working with her, and yeah, she's my favorite actress of all
yeah.
time.
Marvelous. When you look at pictures of her, she's very striking in her appearance.
Oh, her eyes, those
Yeah,
Betty Davis eyes,
yeah.
yeah.
And am I right? Her films include All About Eve and then Whatever Happened to Baby Jane.
Yeah, well, Robert Aldrich, who directed me in All the Marbles, directed her in Whatever Happened to Baby Jane. I don't know if you're familiar with Robert Aldrich, but He did The Dirty Dozen, Whatever Happened to Baby
Yeah.
Jane, Longest Yard, Hustle. So many great movies. And I couldn't believe I was working with him when I was doing the wrestling film. I don't know if you ever saw it.
Yeah.
Did you see it? All the Marbles?
Oh, yeah. That just about takes me on to the next question. It's 40 years, 1981, all about the Marbles. You worked with, is it Peter Falk? Is it? You worked with.
Sorry?
Did you work
Is it?
with Peter Falk on all on the
Oh, yes, I
Marbles?
did. I starred in the film with him, right. They saw 2,000 girls, and they narrowed it down to 1,500, and then they narrowed it down to 12 of us, and we all had to go to be screen tested with Robert Aldrich, and I was very lucky to be chosen as one of the 12. And from the 12, they narrowed it down to 4. And then the actors' strike hit for 5 or 6 months. So we were not allowed to wrestle. But Vicki Frederick and myself, the other young lady, we continued to wrestle even though the actors' strike was in full force. So I believe that gave us an advantage. But then both of us were very athletic in our own ways. Yeah. And because she was a famous dancer on Broadway, and I was just very athletic growing up because my dad didn't want us going out with boys at all. He just wanted us playing sports after school. So that was my advantage, I feel, in getting that film.
Yeah. Happy Days, and it's also known as California Dolls as well, alternatively known as California
Yeah,
Dolls.
it's called the California Dolls in England, yeah?
Yeah, I believe so, yes. What was Peter Falk as a person in real life? Was it great working with such
Oh, he
gentlemen?
was a Peter with a doll, but he had a tendency to change the dialogue. Vicki and I were bird fresh out of the water. We didn't really know what we were doing. We were terrified. It was our first major film, and what Peter would do was change our dialogue every night. He'd have us come up to his room with his secretary, and he would rewrite all the dialogue. And the next day on the set, Robert Aldrich would say action or rehearsal, and the dialogue had absolutely nothing to do with the story at hand. He changed all the dialogue, and so we were terrified. So Robert Aldrich just said, Vicki, Laurene, out in the alley. And he gave us the 3rd degree, and he threatened us. And he said, if we changed the dialogue again and disobeyed him, we were going to get fired. And so we didn't say anything because we were terrified.
Yeah.
We didn't do it. And then the next day, Peter called us up to his room again to say, I got some more dialogue, and it's okay with Robert this time. And Vicki and I didn't think it was okay, but we were, we're just kids, right? As 20 years old. And so we redid the dialogue again. And this time Robert Aldrich took us, we were in a restaurant, and he said, you, out in the alley. So we're all out in the alley, and he says, you and you are fired. And then he put his hand up against Peter Falk's throat. We were fired every day, but it was all because of Peter, right? And then that night I went and knocked on Robert's door, and I said, and his secretary answered, and I said, is Bob here? And his wife was there. Robert Aldrich's wife was there. She said, come on in. And I said, I want to tell you I'm very sorry that what we did. I feel terrible, and I'm so ashamed, and I'm very sorry. And Robert Aldrich said, he was there. He said, I know it wasn't you girls. He says, I know it was Peter the whole time, but I had to make an example. Yeah. And he said, I wanted him to feel bad because I had threatened to fire you 2 girls. And he said, I didn't mean to do that, and I'm sorry. But he said, Peter really screwed up. Now, Peter would talk to ladders, and he would talk to chairs, and we would sit in the airplanes, in the back of the airplane, because planes don't back into mountains. We were always too terrified to fly in the front with the rest of the cast and crew. We flew all over the country, but we would always sit in the very back of the plane and just, terrified.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much for reminiscing about all the marbles. That was part one of my interview with Hollywood actress LAURENE Landon, and you can catch part two next time round on the Danny Sun feature radio show.